Imagine you're standing on the deck of a ship, and the captain deliberately begins steering straight toward an active volcano. How would you feel? Most people would probably panic. After all, volcanoes can erupt without warning. They can blast ash thousands of feet into the sky, shake the ground beneath your feet, and destroy everything around them in a matter of minutes. So the idea of intentionally sailing a ship into one sounds completely insane. And yet, there's one place on Earth where captains have been doing exactly that for decades. What's even stranger is that they don't just sail past it, they actually enter it. Every year, expedition ships carrying hundreds of passengers slowly disappear between towering black cliffs, leaving the open ocean behind. For a few tense moments, it feels as though the ship is sailing directly into the heart of the volcano itself. And the most unbelievable part is, they do this completely on purpose. At first, I thought there had to be another explanation. Maybe the volcano had been dormant for thousands of years. Maybe people simply gave it a dramatic name to attract tourists. But the deeper I looked into it, the more I realized that neither of those explanations was true. Because this volcano isn't just a giant hole in the ground. It's still considered active today. This place is called Deception Island, one of the strangest islands on our planet. It lies off the coast of Antarctica, surrounded by freezing seas, drifting ice, and some of the harshest weather anywhere on Earth. From above, it doesn't even look like a normal island. Instead, it resembles a giant broken ring floating in the middle of the ocean, as if an enormous piece of it had simply vanished. And in a way, that's exactly what happened. Thousands of years ago, this wasn't a ring-shaped island at all. It was a massive volcanic mountain rising out of the Southern Ocean. Then, after a colossal eruption, the volcano collapsed into itself, leaving behind an enormous crater known as a caldera. Over time, the sea flooded this crater, creating something almost impossible, a giant natural harbor hidden inside an active volcano. But that only creates an even bigger question. If the volcano completely surrounds this hidden harbor, how do ships get inside in the first place? The answer lies in a narrow opening carved into the volcanic rim, a passage so dramatic that early sailors named it Neptune's Bellows. And once you see it, you'll understand why. The entrance is only about 500 meters wide. Dark volcanic cliffs rise steeply on both sides, making the gap feel far narrower than it actually is. From a distance, it almost looks like a doorway leading into another world. If you didn't already know there was a harbor beyond it, you'd probably never guess that massive ships could fit through such a small opening. But Neptune's Bellows has another secret. Hidden just beneath the surface sits Raven Rock, a submerged reef that's almost invisible from above. At high tide, it's covered by only a couple of meters of water, meaning one wrong turn could seriously damage a ship. Even today, experienced captains rely on detailed charts and modern sonar as they carefully guide their vessels through this narrow passage. Now imagine what that journey actually feels like. Behind you is the endless Antarctic Ocean. Ahead, towering volcanic cliffs slowly close in around the ship. The wind begins to calm. The water becomes almost perfectly still. And before you even realize it, you've crossed the edge of the volcano and entered its hidden world. Strangely, the inside doesn't look anything like what most people imagine. There's no glowing lava flowing across the ground, no towering clouds of ash filling the sky. Instead, you're surrounded by calm water, snow-covered mountains, and black volcanic beaches stretching along the shoreline. For a moment, it almost convinces you that this place isn't dangerous after all. But that's exactly what makes Deception Island so fascinating. Beneath this peaceful landscape, the volcano is still very much alive. Deep underground, magma continues to heat the earth, even though the surface appears calm. And the first sign that something unusual is happening here isn't something you see. It's something you feel. As visitors step onto the black volcanic sand, many notice something completely unexpected. Even though they're standing in Antarctica, with freezing air all around them, the ground beneath their feet feels surprisingly warm. Not because of the sun, not because of the weather, but because the volcano beneath them is still releasing heat. And once I discovered what that hidden heat was capable of, I finally began to understand why this island is unlike anywhere else on Earth. As visitors continue exploring Deception Island, they quickly realize that the warm sand isn't just a small patch near the beach. In several places across the island, heat seeps up from beneath the ground, creating pockets where the frozen landscape suddenly feels alive. Steam quietly rises from cracks in the black volcanic sand, almost as if the island is breathing. That underground heat doesn't stop at the shoreline. In some parts of the flooded crater, volcanic vents warm the seawater to nearly 70 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than many hot tubs. I'll admit, this was the moment I had to stop and read that twice. Imagine standing in Antarctica, while the ocean beside you is naturally heated by magma. Penguins, seals, and seabirds gather around these geothermal areas, resting on steaming beaches and slipping into warmer water. One moment you're watching wildlife survive in Antarctica, and the next you're looking at what feels like a natural hot spring. Just when I thought this island couldn't get any stranger, its history completely changed the mood. Hidden along one side of the harbor lies Whalers Bay. A century ago, it was one of the busiest whaling stations in Antarctica. Today, rusting machinery, giant oil tanks, and weathered whale bones remain scattered across the volcanic beach. It feels less like history and more like a forgotten world. The people who lived here didn't leave because the industry disappeared. They left because the volcano reminded everyone it was still alive. Between 1967 and 1969, eruptions buried buildings beneath ash, forced research stations to evacuate, and transformed the settlement into ruins. I honestly expected that to be the end of the story. But the volcano had one final surprise. During one of those eruptions, the sea began to boil. Steam filled the harbor, and new land rose from the ocean floor. For a brief moment, Deception Island actually gave birth to another island. But what happened to that newborn island is even harder to believe, because only a few years later, it was gone. The new island was named Yelcho Island, after the Chilean ship that witnessed its birth. It stretched nearly a kilometer long with steaming craters and vividly colored crater lakes. It was one of the rare moments when humans watched the Earth literally create new land. Only a few years later, another eruption destroyed it. Most of it collapsed beneath the sea, while the rest merged back into Deception Island. Imagine watching an island be born, only to disappear within your lifetime. By this point, I kept coming back to the same question we started with. If this place can do all of this, why do ships still sail into it? The answer isn't because the volcano is safe. It isn't. Scientists still monitor it closely. Ships come because the ancient collapse that created this volcano also formed one of Antarctica's safest and most sheltered natural harbors. That protected harbor allows scientists to study an active volcano up close and gives visitors a chance to experience warm volcanic beaches, abandoned whaling ruins, and one of Earth's most unusual landscapes. Suddenly, sailing into an active volcano doesn't seem reckless anymore. It feels like the only way to experience a place like this. And maybe that's the greatest deception of Deception Island. From the outside, it looks like the last place any captain would willingly take a ship. But hidden behind those towering black cliffs lies one of Antarctica's safest natural harbors, a place where destruction and protection exist side by side. Perhaps that's why this island has fascinated explorers for more than 2 centuries. It reminds us that appearances can be dangerously misleading. Sometimes, the places that look the most terrifying are the ones offering shelter. And sometimes, the forces of nature that seem determined to destroy everything end up creating something extraordinary instead. So the next time someone tells you that ships deliberately sail into an active volcano, you'll know they're telling the truth. Because at Deception Island, the volcano isn't just the destination, it's the harbor.